All right. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the one and only Wrestling Otaku channel. Of course, your personification of excellence on YouTube and YWC. We're the best reviews wrestling and your three-time YWC channel of the year. Now back here, it is now officially Saturday, September the 20th, 2025. It is real late night here, a little past 3 a.m. So it is what it is. It's real late. But I wanted to go ahead and give you guys my official AEW All Out 2025 pay-per-view predictions video as I promised. I know I'm a little late in it, but yeah, so kind of was in and out of sleep, rest, took a little bit of a nap, if you will, getting off of work and stuff like that. I actually meant to do it earlier in the night, but again, it is what it is. So, but yeah, so I wanted to go ahead and get this video out of the way since the pay-per-view actually takes place tomorrow night or later today, however you want to put it, because again, it is technically now Saturday. So just wanted to go ahead and do this video for you folks, give you my predictions for AEW's All Out pay-per-view, which will take place at 3 p.m. Ahead of the original start time of 7 p.m. because WWE is running a pay-per-view as well, and AEW decided to move the time forward, I guess, to give them a little head start, a little one-up on WWE's WrestlePalooza, show. But anyway, so I wanted to go ahead and do this predictions video for you. And so with it being so late and, it's literally the day of, I wanted to go ahead and just kind of get through every match that has been predicted here. Ordinarily, I'll do these predictions videos. You guys have seen in the past. I'll do these predictions videos, and I'll kind of break down every match, what I think of it, and based on story and stuff like that. But since it is so late, and I don't want to have this video be up for very long, because I usually, when I do a prediction video, it runs upwards of 30, 40 minutes. I'm going to go through this one pretty quickly. Hopefully, it won't take too long. Well, I say hopefully, and it ends up taking long, but yeah, it is late, and again, I want to get this video in, while I can, and so on and so forth. So I'm just going to run through every match real briefly, give my predictions, and that's pretty much how we're going to do this. So with that being said, without further ado, let us go ahead and get right into the predictions for the match card for AEW's All Out 2025 pay-per-view. So as we currently stand, as of right now, there are 13, actually technically 16 matches that have been announced for the card, 13 on the main show, and then 3 on the pre-show, or usually they call it the 0 hour, but I believe they're going to have a special, I forget what they call I forget what they call the pre-show now. It's not the 0 hour, they call it something else, and it's actually going to air on TNT Live at 2 p.m., like an hour before the pay-per-view starts. And also it streams on HBO Max, which, of course, obviously AEW streams on HBO Max, their main shows anyway. Dynamite inclusion. But anyway, so with that being said, let us start with the pre-show matches, the 3 pre-show matches, and I'm just going to run down from top to bottom here. And they are as follows. We have a 8-woman tornado tailgate brawl tag team match. That's what it's called, tailgate brawl, I believe. AEW's Tailgate Brawl, something like that. And that's like the pre-show or whatever. But anyway, so basically an 8-woman tornado tag match. They're calling it a Tailgate Brawl tag match. It is the team of Harley Cameron, Mina Shirakawa, Queen Aminata, and Willow Nightingale versus Megan Bayne, Penelope Ford, and the Triangle of Madness is Julia Hart and Sky Blue. So we've seen a number of combinations of these women in recent weeks, so on and so forth. We've seen Harley Cameron get involved with Megan Bayne, Penelope Ford. Mina Shirakawa's gotten into the mix. Queen Aminata's gone at, Tekla, and also, her, basically new faction, that being the Triangle of Madness. So, and Willow Nightingale's kind of, been back and forth with various, numbers of her opponents in this match. So yeah, this is an 8-woman tag is interesting enough, and then the fact that it's an 8-woman tornado tailgate brawl, I'm not sure. I mean, obviously, a tornado tag implies that all parties will be in the ring at the same time, or both teams will be in the ring at the same time. It's just going to be a melee, basically 4-on-4 in the ring. And I imagine the tailgate brawl is probably something like, I don't know, street fight rules or something like that, where they'll just fight all around the ring and, no disqualification, stuff like that. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. So it should be a fun match on the pre-show, on, again, the tailgate brawl, whatever they call the pre-show. As to who wins, it could go either way. I'm going to go ahead and give it to the face team here. I'm going to give it to the team of Harley Cameron, Mina Shirakawa, Queen Aminata, and Willow Nightingale. I just get the feeling that they're going to go over in this match. That granted, Megan Bayne, any team that Megan Bayne is on is generally booked pretty strong, and I think she has won the last couple of encounters, like, in terms of like, singles matches or even tag matches, but I just get the feeling that the face team is going to go over here. So give me the team of Cameron, Shirakawa, Aminata, and Nightingale for the victory here over, over their opposing team here in this 8-woman tornado tailgate brawl match. That's my prediction for that. Moving on. So next up, we get our first singles match of the pre-show. We got Daniel Garcia, the new Daniel Garcia. Now he's part of course, the Death Riders, so he's basically a heel now. Daniel Garcia, 1-on-1 versus Katsuhiro Shibata. Obviously, this is playing off of the Death Riders versus the Ops, thing. And now, of course, again, you get the added wrinkle of Daniel Garcia being part of the Death Riders, having turned heel a couple weeks ago, much to, I don't want to say necessarily much to anyone's surprise, because I think we kind of saw it coming a little by little, and then finally they kind of pulled the trigger, and Daniel Garcia is now in the Death Riders. But anyway, so it should be a decent enough match. As to who wins, another little kind of a toss-up, but I do think they're going to give the win to Daniel Garcia just to kind of give him more, because he literally just turned heel. He just joined the Death Riders, so I can't really see him draw. I kind of think they want to build him up more before they have him start taking losses. So, again, he's a new member. They're trying to establish him as a heel, establish him as a part of the Death Riders. So I think they're going to give him the win over Katsuhiro Shibata here. So give me Garcia over Shibata for this match. And the final match of the pre-show will be a standard tag team match. It's going to be the Ops, Samoa Joe and Powerhouse Hobbs versus the Workhorsemen, that being Anthony Henry and JD Drake. It's kind of weird that, the Ops, of course, right now are AEW Trios champions, and you got Shibata in a singles match against Garcia on the pre-show, and now you got Samoa Joe and Powerhouse Hobbs in a tag match against the Workhorsemen. It's kind of odd, but I guess this is how AEW's, I guess because, again, the main card is stacked already. They got like 13 matches already on the main card, so I guess they have to kind of break, they have to have matches for the zero. It's just odd seeing the Trios champions kind of in a singles match and in a standard tag match. It's just odd. But anyway, so should be an interesting tag match. We haven't seen the Workhorsemen a whole lot because I think both of them have kind of been out with injury. So it'll be interesting to see how this match goes. As to who wins, though, I got the Ops. I got Samoa Joe and Powerhouse Hobbs, just based on the fact that they've got, obviously more chemistry right now, or, they've got, obviously, they're right now anyway, the more prominent team. And, the Trios them being Trios champions also. Give me the Ops over the Workhorsemen here. All right, moving on to the main card, the main portion of the pay-per-view here. And the matches are as follows. We start out with this big match here, big grudge match, tag team match. It is the return to Toronto, mind you. They're going to be in Toronto, Canada for a show. It is Adam Copeland and Christian Cage teaming up for the first time in 20 years in Toronto, making their return to Toronto. Adam Copeland and Christian Cage teaming up once again. They teamed up at the last pay-per-view to take on Kill Switch and Kip Sabian. They got the win there. And here is a big grudge match. It is Copeland and Cage versus FTR's Cash Wheeler and Dax Harwood. Very high-profile match here. This is one that we've been looking for quite some time, ever since FTR turned on Copeland. So they've been building this up for a while. And, if you saw the face-off they had on Dynamite this past week, yeah, it's going to be quite physical. Dax Harwood literally fucking broke his nose in the melee, and he was literally bleeding from the nose. And so I don't think they expected, I don't think that they planned that. I guess it's just something that happened. But yeah, that kind of added to the grittiness and, kind of the appeal of this match. And it's going to be very physical. It's going to be very violent, I imagine. It's going to be all over the place, and both these teams are going to fucking put on a clinic in this match. Very much looking forward to this one. Hope I get the chance to see it, though. As to who wins, well, it's going to be tough. FTR is a very strong, protected team in AEW, but it's Copeland and Christian Cage. It's Adam Copeland and Christian Cage in Toronto, and I don't see them dropping this one. I mean, they could pull a surprise and have FTR go over here, and maybe we'll have another match or a series of matches down the line. But I just get the feeling that Adam Copeland and Christian Cage are going to find a way to put away FTR in this match. So give me Copeland and Cage over FTR. And like I said, it's going to be this is going to be quite a spectacle, and the crowd's definitely going to be into it. They're definitely going to be behind Copeland and Cage in this match. But give me Copeland and Cage to go over on FTR here. And so to see just the appeal of this match, just like again the grudge, the story, the build up, everything going into it, the emotion, everything going into it. I just get the feeling it's going to be a solid match, man. Moving on. So next up, we get a trios. Is that trios? Yeah. Sorry, because it looked like it said something else. Maybe that's my computer get smudged or whatever. Okay, yeah. So next up, we get a trios match. We get the Hurt Syndicates, another grudge match here. The Hurt Syndicates, Bobby Lashley, Shelton Benjamin, and MVP, who's actually going to be in the match, versus the team of Ricochet and the Gates of Agony, that being Bishop Khan and Toa Leona. We've seen this rivalry, this feud, if you will, between these two factions kind of, come to a head the last several weeks. You had Ricochet and his group basically cost the Hurt Syndicate the tag titles a number of months ago, and ever since then, the Hurt Syndicate has been going at, the Gates of Agony and Ricochet. And we've seen back and forth between these two factions, throughout the last couple of weeks. And very much look forward to this match as well. I think it's going to be another, pretty physical, intense, it's going to be physical. It's going to be intense. I think it's going to be a solid outing, though, between both teams. So I think it's going to be a fun six-man tag trios match here. As to who wins, I got to give it to the Hurt Syndicate, man. It seems like in recent months, ever since, they got screwed out of the tag titles by Ricochet and his group. It seems like the Hurt Syndicate have been kind of leaning towards being faces. I know they've been primarily a heel faction, but it seems like they're kind of subtly turned face here. The crowd was getting behind them anyway with the "We Hurt People" chant. But yeah, I do think that the Hurt Syndicate's going over here, and I do believe that in the future the Hurt Syndicate they're already, like I said, very very much over. And if they get to a point where, they're challenging, be it as a team or solos wrestlers, if they get these guys challenging for singles titles and, they kind of work their way up the card, I think the Hurt Syndicate can be one of the most over factions in AEW, maybe in AEW's history. I do think they're at that point, They're definitely very much over with the crowd. So give me the Hurt Syndicate over Ricochet and Gates of Agony. Moving on. So next up, we get a singles match for the AEW TBS Championship here. First women's match of the show. Mercedes Moné, the champion, 8 belts, 9 belts, Moné, however many belts she has now, versus Riho, the returning Riho, who returned a couple weeks ago. And so TBS title defense here. Mercedes Moné has held this title for well over a year since she won it, back at Double or Nothing last year, 2024, defeating Willow Nightingale. She's held on to it ever since. Much to my surprise, I personally thought she would have dropped it at this point, but she's doing, again, the belt collector gimmick and so. And then we got Riho, who's the first ever AEW Women's Champion. She's kind of been on and off. She's kind of been, coming and going, if you will, in terms of her stints in AEW. I think mostly it has to do with injuries. And plus, I believe she wrestles for other promotions as well. But I think it's more so injuries. But hey, she's recently returned again, and she's challenging for the TBS title here. So this should be an interesting contest. I don't think we've ever seen these two wrestle. I mean, to my knowledge, I don't think they've, I don't know. Because again, thinking about all the different shows, for AEW, I mean, I don't know. I vaguely remember Riho possibly having an interaction with Mercedes. Maybe I don't know if that was a match necessarily, but I don't know. I'm pretty sure this is the first wrestling match that these two have had, so should be a decent enough match. I think it's going to be solid. I mean, any match from Mercedes Moné, she always brings whoever she's in the ring with to the next level. And I think Riho's a solid wrestler as well. It's just that she's kind of been on and off with the injuries. But anyway, as to who wins, I got to give it to Mercedes. I just don't, with all due respect to Riho, I don't see her coming back, after being off for so long and then taking the TBS title from Mercedes. I don't think Riho should be the one to do it, personally. I don't think Riho should be the one to beat Mercedes. I think it should be somebody who is in AEW and who you want to take that next level as an established name, like a Chris Statlander. I mean, I'm surprised Chris Statlander hasn't done it. Like somebody like I would say a Jamie Hayter, but we've seen that match already. Somebody who AEW looks to take that next step, maybe to be in the kind of that upper mid card, upper mid card main event echelon in the women's division. Somebody like a damn it, what was her freaking Alex Windsor? That's the name I was thinking of. But, we've seen Mercedes Moné and Alex Windsor, and, Mercedes has already beaten Alex Windsor several times. But I just get the feeling that at some point this year, they're going to take the title off from Mercedes. I don't know who they're going to. I don't know who they're planning to have him beat Mercedes, but I do think that at some point Mercedes is going to be in the AEW Women's World Title conversation again. Like it's inevitable she's going to be the AEW Women's World Champion, and I think they want her to drop the TBS title before that. So, but I don't think Riho is going to be the one to do it. Just throwing that out there. But yeah, give me Mercedes over Riho here, and she retains the TBS title. Moving on. So next up, we have one of the most highly anticipated matches of this pay-per-view. We got Jon Moxley one-on-one versus Darby Allin in a coffin match. Now, mind you, Darby Allin, this is like Darby Allin's specialty match. It's basically akin to a casket match, only it's, a coffin with like the spikes usually and stuff like that. And obviously with Darby Allin and his style of wrestling, it's a very unique style of match that Darby Allin has pretty much won. I believe he's won like all but I think one of the previous coffin matches he's been in. So yeah, he's definitely he's you could say like this is his signature match basically. And then Jon Moxley obviously is Jon Moxley, and again we all know the history between Jon Moxley with the Death Riders and Darby Allin. It was the Death Riders who took Darby Allin out, or took him off TV, and then he went and climbed Mount Everest and came back and aided Hangman Page in taking the world's title from Jon Moxley after his almost year-long title reign. So, and then we've seen Darby Allin basically go at the Death Riders once again the last several weeks, then thus resulting in this match. So, very much looking forward to seeing all the things they have planned for this match that these two are going to do to each other. I'm here for all of it, man. I can't wait to see this match. I can't wait to see what tricks Darby Allin has up his sleeve, and what Jon Moxley has up his sleeve, because I'm sure he's going to pull some stuff out as well. As to who wins, I know ordinarily people would say like Darby Allin right off the bat because it is a coffin match. It is his match. I do think, Jon Moxley is more than capable of winning a match like this, but I got to give it to Darby, man. I got to give it to Darby Allin. I think Darby Allin gets a slight measure of revenge or retribution against Jon Moxley and the Death Riders in this match by putting away Jon Moxley in this coffin match. So give me Darby Allin over Jon Moxley. So that's my pick for that. Moving on. So next up, we get another specialty grudge match here, and this one being a tables, the first ever, to my recollection, first ever tables and tacks match. It'll be Mark Briscoe one-on-one versus MJF. We've seen this kind of boil over the last several weeks with MJF taunting, mocking Mark Briscoe, making reference to his brother, the late Jay Briscoe, may he rest in peace. And Mark Briscoe obviously clearly taking exception to it, and he's been going at MJF ever since. He, in essence, prevented MJF from, cashing in on Hangman Page after their main event match at the last pay-per-view. What was the last pay-per-view? Was it Forbidden Door? Did they wrestle Forbidden? Yeah, it was Forbidden Door. Yeah, it was Forbidden Door. Sorry, I'm getting my pay-per-views mixed up here, but yeah. So Mark Briscoe, we've seen Mark Briscoe basically go at MJF, and MJF, return, obviously went after Mark Briscoe, so on and so forth, and so that's culminated in this match, and so basically we're gonna see yet another, grudge match between MJF and Mark Briscoe, and with the tables and tacks element. I mean, it's basically a tables match, but you throw in thumbtacks pretty much. So I don't know if it's going to be a thing where you have tables with thumbtacks on them, or they're going to be tables and then they're going to put thumbtack. I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But, I mean, that being said, it's going to be obviously a very brutal match. It's probably going to be blood. It's probably going to be all kinds of table spots, thumbtack spots, and it's going to be gritty. It's going to be nasty, but, we're here for it. I mean, it's AEW, man. We're here for it. So we'll see what happens in it. As to who wins... kind of a toss-up again. Since it was Mark Briscoe who made the stipulation, I'm inclined to believe Mark Briscoe is going to win. And, MJF has, I think these two have wrestled before, and MJF has gotten the better of Mark Briscoe in pretty much all their encounters, so I'm kind of leaning towards Mark Briscoe in this one. I know, again, he's a heavy underdog, that, with, again, MJF is like, so, another wrestler in AEW who doesn't take a whole lot of losses, and, he's obviously, a lot of people think he should be in the world title conversation. He was in the world title conversation. And so, that being said, ordinarily I would say MJF, but I just get the feeling Mark Briscoe's going to pull this one out. I just get that feeling. So give me Mark Briscoe over MJF in this tables and tacks match, and we'll see what these two do, what they do with this feud going forward. Moving on. So next up we have a four-way women's match for the AEW Women's World Championship. The champion, Timeless Toni Storm, defends against Jamie Hayter, against Chris Statlander, my girl, Chris Statlander, and against Tekla of the Triangle of Madness. So we've seen the last several weeks, the three challengers for Toni Storm basically were decided via, I think, qualifying matches. And so thus we have this four-way. So it's going to be interesting just to see all four of these women just go at it. We've seen Jamie Hayter. Jamie Hayter has history with Toni Storm. Chris Statlander, I think, has wrestled Toni Storm in the past as well. And then Tekla, who's, again, one of AEW's newest hires. And we've seen kind of like, back and forth or, tension between Toni Storm and Tekla. So, and then obviously Jamie Hayter, Chris Statlander wrestled against each other before. We've seen Tekla face again, Tekla and Hayter have had a bit of, a feud ever since, Tekla's debut where she took out Jamie Hayter, and then Chris Statlander and, Tekla have been at each other. So all four of these women are going to go at it, and it's going to be a really, really solid match in the women's division. I'm sure they're going to pull out all the bells and whistles. We've seen Toni Storm defend her title in four-way matches before on episodes of Dynamite and such, and I think this one's going to be truly special. I think it's going to be a really good match between these four. As to who wins, man, as much as I want my girl Chris Statlander to win this match, and Chris Statlander deserves a run. I've been saying this for years now. Chris Statlander deserves a run at the top of the AEW Women's World title. I don't know if this is going to be the night they're going to crown her yet. I just don't know. Her momentum's kind of like some weeks, they'll give it to her. Like she looks really good. Some weeks, they have her put over somebody, which, it is what it is. As much as I want Chris Statlander to win here, and I think at some point she should be Women's World Champion, I don't think she's going to do it. And I kind of don't really see Jamie Hayter or Tekla doing it either. So I think Toni Storm is going to retain. I just get the feeling that this is a match that Toni Storm is going to find a way by hook or by crook to win this match and retain her AEW Women's World title. So give me Toni Storm to retain in this women's four-way match. Moving on. So next up, we got... I'm going to skip over this one. We got a couple matches, 4 matches to go. So next, we got a 3-way match for the AEW Unified Championship. The champion, Kazuchika Okada, defends against Konosuke Takeshita and Mascara Dorada. And again, this was as a result of a kind of mini tournament where all three individuals had to basically win a match in order to earn their spot, including Okada, who defended the title against... excuse me, I forget who he defended the title against, but it was like a week or two ago on Dynamite. But anyway, so 3-way match here, and the intrigue of this is the fact that Okada and Takeshita, who are both technically part of the Don Callis family, kind of have been having tensions the last several weeks. We've seen both men having face-offs. A lot of people are saying that, Takeshita is very, very soon going to break away from the Don Callis family, or maybe, Okada does, and Okada turns face or something like that. Well, I mean, we may see it. At some point, these two are going to come to a head. Like, it's going to happen. Like, it's a 3-way match, every man for themselves. It's going to happen. But likely what's going to happen is they're probably going to go at, Mascara Dorada, who's kind of the odd man out, if you will. But I'm sure he's going to have his excuse me. I'm sure he's going to have his share of, moves and, spots in this match or moments in this match. And so it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a fun match to watch for sure. As to who wins, I got Okada retaining, but don't sleep on the possibility of Takeshita, basically kind of turning on Okada, or something to that effect, and we may see something of a really heavy grudge match or heavy face-off between Okada and Takeshita in the future. And I do think, like, a lot of people are saying Takeshita will be the one to break away from the Don Callis family, which they're definitely teasing it, and it remains to be seen. But I do think they're going to go at each other in this match, and Okada, I think, will retain. So that's my thoughts on that. So next up, we get a singles match here with Big Bill one-on-one versus the returning Eddie Kingston. Up to this point, we haven't really seen Eddie Kingston on TV, but he was advertised for this match, and I guess we say basically Big Bill has been, challenging or was challenged by Eddie Kingston, and so we're going to see Eddie Kingston for the first time in over a year, and looking forward to seeing what he does, and this match here that he's going to have against Big Bill should be something special. Like Big Bill, Big Bill's like, not the best wrestler technically speaking, but you know he has his own appeal. And depending on where you are, like depending on where AEW does shows, he's got his own bit of fanfare. Like there's certain crowds that have gotten behind Big Bill in the past, so he's got his own appeal in a ways. But this match here, again, the big thing is Eddie Kingston, seeing how he does, since returning, for the first time in over a year. A lot of people thought he would never wrestle again, but he's going to wrestle in this show, apparently. So can't wait to see it. Can't wait to see Eddie Kingston's and, how he does. See how he does in this match. As to who wins, obviously, Eddie Kingston's returning, so he's likely going over. So give me Eddie Kingston over Big Bill. And we'll see what happens. We'll see what Eddie Kingston does. All right, next up, we have another specialty match here. Getting to the final two here, we have a 4-way ladder match for the AEW World Tag Team Championships, a 4-way tag team ladder match for the AEW World Tag titles. It is the champions of Brodito, that being Brody King and Bandito, versus the teams of the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson, Jet Speed, which is Kevin Knight and Speedball Mike Bailey, and then finally the Don Callis family, which is Hechi Cedro and Josh Alexander. So all three teams or challengers had to basically get into this match via qualifying. Again, much like with the women's 4-way, much like with the unified title match 3-way. All three challenging teams had to win qualifying matches in order to get in. And so, looking at this match on paper, it being a 4-way tag match is interesting in of itself. Then when you throw the ladder match stipulation in there, it really becomes quite, it really has the potential to be one of the best matches, one of the most interesting and unique matches on this card. So very much looking forward to it. Can't wait to see what these four teams do. I'm sure we're going to see a lot of fucking high spots, a lot of spots off the ladders and all that kind of stuff. Maybe spots off the ladder through tables or stuff like that. But it's going to be a very, very interesting, very fun match, a very exciting and fun match to watch. I'll bet you can bet that with four teams all in the ring at the same time and throw ladders in there, it's going to be a very fun match. As to who wins, you can make a case for the Young Bucks, even though I'm sure a lot of people would not like to see the Young Bucks win the tag belts again. Even though this is, kind of one of their specialties, ladder matches. But I don't know if it's going to be the Young Bucks, honestly. Jet Speed is an interesting choice, especially considering they have, the high. They definitely both members are Kevin Knight for sure is like a high flyer. Mike Bailey is more of like a grounded, martial artist style, striker type wrestler. But he's competed in the X division, in terms of TNA, he's competed in the X division before, so he's used to, high flying, wrestling with high flying opponents. And then you look at the team of the Don Callis family, a little more of an unconventional team, but I'm sure they're going to do some damage in this match. But for me personally, I think that the champions, Brody King and Bandito, are probably going to retain here. I just don't see them losing the tag belts in a match of this fashion. I think it's going to be close. You're going to see instances where, the other teams might win or they're going to be very close, but I just got Bandito and Brody King retaining here. So give me the team of Bandito and Brodito retaining the AEW World Tag Team Championships. And it's going to be a badass match. It is going to be a badass match. And then finally, in the main event, or what is likely to be the main event of this night, it will be the match for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship. The champion, Hangman Adam Page, defends against the TNT champion, Kyle Fletcher. Only the AEW World's titles on the line, by the way. This is not a double title match. And with the added stipulation, that if any member of the Don Callis family interferes in the match, Fletcher will be disqualified and he will be stripped of the TNT Championship. So basically, the Don Callis family is banned from ringside for this match. So we've been seeing back and forth, verbally between Hangman Adam Page and Kyle Fletcher, also physically, if you look at the end of Dynamite. But yeah, so Kyle Fletcher, ever since getting this opportunity, to challenge for the title, he's been very vocal. We've seen lots of segments with Kyle Fletcher basically, voicing his displeasure in regards to Hangman Page, take a shot to Hangman Page, saying that he's better than him, all that kind of stuff. And we're seeing Hangman Page fire back. So this is another match that I think a lot of people look forward to. We got the one of the AEW's current top stars versus a potential future top star, that being Kyle Fletcher. Again, the dude's very young, only like, 25, 26 years old. And basically, ever since he had this singles run, ever since he branched off from, United Empire, joined the Don Callis family, he's definitely one of those names to look out for in terms of being a future guy, to a future top guy, or future main eventer, if you will, or being in that world title conversation. This is a world title match, so he's definitely getting that opportunity here. We'll see what he does. But I think it's going to be a solid, on paper, solid, solid, technically sound match. It's also going to be physical as well. I mean, you look at Hangman Page, that's his kind of his specialty, the physicality. But Kyle Fletcher, I think he's going to take Hangman Page to the wire. I think it's going to be a solid match. It's going to be a solid, technically sound match in the main event, and I'm sure they're going to have both of these guys go all out. No pun intended, because that's the name of the pay-per-view. But anyway, but yeah, so looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing what they do in the main event here. As to who wins, Hangman Adam Page all day. Hangman Adam Page. Hangman Page is going to retain the title. All due respect to Kyle Fletcher, he's the TNT champion. I don't see the Don Callis family getting involved. I don't see him being stripped of the TNT title. But he will not win this match here. So it's going to be a little while yet before Kyle Fletcher is truly main event world heavyweight title material, or world champion, I should say, material. But on this night, I got Hangman Adam Page winning, and Hangman Adam Page will retain the AEW World Heavyweight Title Championship. So, that being said, those are all the matches. Those are all 13 matches on the main show, then the 3 on the pre-show, which, obviously makes 16. So, those are all the matches, my predictions. And so that is going to conclude this predictions video for AEW's All Out 2025 pay-per-view, and a little over 30 minutes, so it wasn't as long as it usually is. I got through all of them, mostly quickly. So yeah, I like to think that that's pretty good. But anyway, so with that being said, that's pretty much going to do it, man. So all that's left is for us to wait for the pay-per-view to take place tomorrow. Can't wait. Tomorrow afternoon, can't wait. Unfortunately, again, I will be working for the duration of most of this, so not going to be able to see it, but it is what it is. I'll have to go back and watch. I will hopefully get to catch, the pre-show and then the first hour of the main show. So, at the very least, I'll see the beginning, and the rest I'll have to go back and watch, highlights and check the results. But anyway, if you guys are going to be watching, I hope you enjoy it. I'm sure it's going to be a badass pay-per-view. AEW always goes all out, once again, no pun intended, for their pay-per-views, and I'm sure All Out 2025 is going to be no exception. And so yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be a great show. It's going to be a really good show on Saturday. Looking forward to it. Very much looking forward to it, and I think all of you should as well. But anyway, that's going to conclude this video, so thank you for watching my AEW All Out 2025 predictions video. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to leave a like, leave a comment, give me your thoughts on any of the matches here, your thoughts on my predictions, make some of your own in the comments, all that kind of stuff. And be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Appreciate all the spark you get. With that being said, that's pretty much going to do it, man. So thank you for watching once again. Until next time, Wrestling Otaku, I'm out. See you guys later.